Still Toking. That's good.
Every 10 or 15 years, a film is produced that is so overwhelming, so forceful in its impact, that it becomes deeply embedded in the mind.
Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
Appreciate your choosing our theater. And to make this experience more enjoyable for everyone, we hope you'll refrain from talking during the show. Enjoy the movie. Thank you.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody. You're watching Still Toking with. My name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. And this is going to be an awesome show, but like my monkey skills are being tested to the brink here because we got a little back end screw up going on, but I'm fixing it. So without further ado, Mr. Benjamin, how's it going, bud?
You are fixing it, Leo.
Working
and
out.
You are the man behind the scenes that keeps this crazy train rolling. Yeah, let's just leave it with that one. I'm super excited about tonight's guest.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, he's only been sitting backstage for an hour and 40. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm really
nice
excited.
Antlers.
You like my antlers, huh?
I like your antlers. You get some nice antlers going on.
It's the Christmas season.
Well, true that. It is the Christmas season. Yeah, so, we had a little delay, but that's okay. Usually we can blame the guest, but that ain't going to work tonight. You know, he was actually on time. So we had fun chatting behind the scenes while these two other monkeys tried to figure shit out, you know. But, let's just bring them in. Oliver Robbie.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you guys.
I always do that shit on purpose. Don't take offense.
Oh, yeah. One thing we forgot to tell you backstage, Jeff likes to mess with people's names.
That's good. You have to do that. You have to keep us on our toes. You know, it's really important.
Right. Well, I've had to practice all day, just so you know, because in my head, you're Robbie.
I know. I'll forever be Robbie Freeling, you know?
You know
what
I mean?
I feel like I'm Robbie Freeling. I think I was the carnation of that kid, and you always keep a little of that inside of you, and I'm forever that kid, you know?
Right.
And it's really interesting when I go to shows. Like I was there with my girlfriend, and this person walks up to me and says, Are you his mother? And so it was really interesting. I mean, people forever see you as 10 years old, and they're like, and she's like, no, he's 50 years old now. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But in your mind, you're always 10 years old. And I'm kind of the same way. I see people, I'm like, oh my God, you had to grow up. And I say, you know, you have to, because, you know, the alternative is actually worse.
That is true. True.
Right. So, you know, for the slow people out there, because, you know, sometimes it takes people to catch up to what's going on. You were one of the stars in the original Poltergeist. You played Robbie.
Yes, I was.
Right?
I was the kid.
Just wanted to clarify that for the people that were like, who the fuck is this guy?
Like, who's this guy? I don't recognize his face at all. He has like a beard. And I don't remember him with a beard in Poltergeist. You know, but anyhow, so yeah, I was a kid, and I was eaten by the tree and strangled by the clown doll, and that's my claim to fame in the movie. I survived both those things.
Yes, and that's a very interesting story that I read somewhere with the clown doll. But we can get into that in a little while if you want.
Yes, of course.
Look at it. Now everybody's going, huh? What?
Oh yeah, no, I read that myself.
You know.
I read that myself.
Never take on angry, psychotic, possessed clown dolls. That's all I can say. It's my word of advice for everyone out there. If you come into contact with a possessed clown doll, just go the other way. Just don't even try to negotiate. There isn't any winning.
So, are you? Since that all happened and went down, are you actually afraid of clowns now?
You know, it's funny. People ask me that, and
I bet all the time.
All the time. Well, actually, I was afraid of clowns before I did Poltergeist, you know, and I kind of just tapped into that fear. And because they asked me during the audition, they said, Oliver, like, they didn't say anything about the story. They're like, what are you like afraid of? And I'm like, well, I'm afraid of this tree outside my window. I have this little clown doll I'm afraid of. I basically mentioned everything the character, you know, in Poltergeist was afraid of. And, you know, I was afraid of a lot of things as a kid, so it was really easy to do.
Very, very cool. So, I mean, we might as well just get into it. So with the clown, how was it like Steven Spielberg actually saving your life?
You know, it's really, people tell me about that. And this is what's really funny about that story. I don't remember it happening at all. And
well, you turned blue.
No, I supposedly I did. I mean, I was my mom, and I asked my mom at the time. I said, "Did this really happen?" She's like, "Oh yeah, Steven got in there, and he saved your life." And I'm like, "Okay, if my mom said it, I know it's true." And yeah, I guess what happened was the fabric of the clown doll kind of wrapped around my neck. You know, when those kind of things happen on set, and I almost suffocate. No, but Steven got in there and just grabbed it off me, and I can literally say that Steven Spielberg saved my life.
That's
Wow,
a story.
Was that final cut?
Well, that never made it into the movie. That's behind the scenes action.
That's too bad.
Right?
Because it would have been
it
would have been real.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it would have been real.
Well, you cut just before Steven comes running in. You know.
Yeah, no, that I think ILM would have made it beautiful no matter what happened. They're so
Right.
amazing with all their special effects.
Right. So
Yeah, I'll tell you. When I first watched that movie, I mean, there's a lot of freaky shit in that movie. Just a lot of freaky freaking shit.
Yeah.
But the scene to me that stands out
Mm-hmm.
and always has is the tree.
Oh, I know that it's brilliant.
That
Steven
creepy motherfucking tree. And ever since, I love creepy trees.
I think every kid has that tree outside their window they're afraid of too. And what's so great about it is that Steven Spielberg wrote this original screenplay, so he tapped into all his childhood fears. And I don't think before that time in cinema that had ever been seen before, where you had a diabolical, psychotic, possessed tree blasting through a window. I had never seen that in movies. It was so if I can use a Hollywood term, so fresh. It was really fresh, and it was so original and so great, because it was so real,
Yeah, the only thing that comes to my mind was in regards to that is the Wizard of Oz with the apple trees.
That is true. I mean, everything builds on everything else. So I guess maybe subconsciously.
But those weren't creepy.
Well, except for the little person that hung himself in the background.
But there's so many other creepy things in Wizard of Oz, like the witches, and those things were scary. I mean, I was terrified by that movie when I saw it.
Right.
I think it was pretty hardcore, especially for 1939. I can only imagine what people thought when they saw it. And we're coming to this with, after seeing Halloween and Friday the 13th, and you still look at Wizard of Oz, and this is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
It's not scary, creepy.
It's creepy.
It is
creepy.
Yeah. It's hard to do that in cinema. It's really hard to get that tone and that feeling in a movie, and when you do it, when it's right, it's so genius,
And it's usually by accident.
Or so you like to think.
Hey, why not, right? But
what?
Go ahead.
No, the best things are really improv and not planned, and you really, and I think those are the most organic kind of moments, that you get in movies, that make them so real.
Right.
Now, were you hesitant to do Poltergeist II?
No, I was excited. As a matter of fact, I couldn't wait to do this movie, and I was beat up every day. This is before bullying became a thing in the world. I was bullied by kids, and I was thrown in the trash can every day in 8th grade. And I was looking for a miracle to get me out of school so I wouldn't be beat up anymore. Lo and behold, MGM calls up and they tell me, they say, Oliver, we'd like you to be in the sequel to Poltergeist. And I'm like, when are we shooting? And I said, we're shooting during the school year. And I'm like, yes, there's a guy. And then I left. Movies were disappointed because they couldn't throw me in the trash can anymore. And I did school on the set. You're supposed to do like 3 hours, and I was doing all my work on the set. So I was so excited to do the sequel. It was great.
Excellent. So
yeah, it wasn't nearly as good, but
what I was going to say is, what's it like 40 years later? I mean, celebrating the 40th anniversary of Poltergeist, to still see this movie kicking ass. I mean, it just.
I know it's amazing, and it's hard to fathom that it is 40 years old, and it makes you wonder. And I thought about this. I was talking to my other friends at some of these like horror conventions. I'm like, what film today is going to be we're going to remember 40 years from now? That's actually going to be it's going to be able to release it in theaters, and it's going to hold up. And I don't know there's not that many movies I don't know that are out today that are actually like that. So it's kind of
a handful.
What?
There's a handful.
Yeah. or we don't
You
know how
know?
audiences will perceive it.
Right.
But it's funny. I watched it again at Universal. They released it for the 40th anniversary, and it really was great. And I know about a little prejudice. I was in it, but even if I wasn't in the movie, and I was watching this just as an audience, I was thinking this is a really great film, and the performances are so real, and Joe Beth and Craig seem like they're married, and those are performances are really, I would say, authentic.
Yeah.
Um,
It was definitely cinematic magic. I can say that. I mean, everybody that was in that movie, and I mean everybody, all the way to your quick cameo walk-ons, everything just clicked perfectly.
Yeah, and I really credit that to the team. I mean, you had Steven Spielberg, who wrote the original script with Michael Grace, Mark Victor, and then Toby. He was a great director with children. And because I really didn't have a lot of experience, he created a set where it was so calm, and I could pretend to be a kid and not pretend to be a kid, and pretend to be Robbie. And he said, just go with it. And I ad-libbed a lot of lines, a lot of moments, and he was always open to suggestions. And I learned that, a lot of filmmakers are pretty fascist. They're not normally like Tobe Hooper, And I think because he created that kind of environment on the set, you got those performances from everybody,
I could see that.
More relaxed, not forced.
Yeah, and you want a kid to be a kid, and because at the end of the day, a kid doesn't have the train. He's not a Shakespearean actor. You need him to be natural and feel free to just be a kid on the set and perform in those scenes.
No. So when I was doing research and everything that kind of came up, you're like known as a child actor, but you're still acting. You're still doing stuff. You've been doing stuff all along, right?
Well, this is the thing. I gave up the film industry for a little while. Believe it or not, I was a
there was some empty years there.
Yeah. Well, I was a stockbroker, and I was trading securities, and my father was a portfolio manager on Wall Street. So unfortunately, the film industry is so hard to make it in. I needed to make a living, so I did that. But I always realized my passion was always filmmaking, and I went to film school at USC. I graduated, and I've worked on other films, and I love, believe it or not, I know I'm in horror, but I love family movies. I wrote a Hallmark Channel movie, which actually did the highest rated June premiere, and it was really great. John Schneider was the lead in it, and I think it's out there like on Amazon. I loved it. It was a great. It really turned out well. And the director of it, strangely enough, he was the second assistant director or second assistant cameraman on Jaws. And I guess,
cool.
Yeah, I know, the director of this Hallmark movie I wrote. And I said I wanted to talk to him about it. He was like, "Oh, Oliver, I don't want to talk about that." So, I mean, I guess that shoot was really tough. I can only imagine, because I shot one film on the water just for one day, and everyone was throwing up. This is out, near Santa Monica, and I think I was the only one who didn't throw up. I came really close, so I can imagine shooting an entire movie on the water. I can only imagine that must be like hell. Yeah, maybe.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that either. Yeah,
no, I mean, imagine just you're bobbing along and you're trying to do all the same filmmaking, but the world is moving around you, and you have all the water, and it seems simple, but once you're out there, you have no control over the environment, like, at all.
Right. Oh, that is true. That is true.
Well, also with Jaws, the shark kept on breaking down too.
That's what I read. So and that's the thing. They credit Verna Fields. They credit her. I think Mr. Spielberg credits her with coming with the idea for the point of view of the shark, because they said this isn't working. We don't know how we're going to make the storytelling work. So that she came up with the idea for the POV of the shark, that dun 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 dun, and John Williams came up with that amazing score to go along with that.
We had the boy who he's not a boy now, but he played the little Kittner kid.
Right,
yeah, and
Jeff Voorhees.
Jeff Voorhees, yeah. Yes. And he was telling us most likely the real reason why the shark kept on breaking down was he was a local kid to the island, and him and all his friends would break into the area where the shark was at night, and they'd be playing on the shark and messing around with it, and
so that's why it was malfunctioning. So indirectly, they're responsible for like cinematic brilliance, because imagine this. All those great shots of the POV of the shark, which we know about Jaws, if the shark had worked, those might not exist. So those kids made this movie as great as it was indirectly.
Right.
Okay, why are we talking about Jaws?
I don't know.
Because that's what we do
I
here.
didn't know it's
That's what we do here, and we kind of go off topic because we want the guest.
I mean, it is
Yeah.
just. I saw it. I mean, I saw it at USC Film School for the first time on the big screen, and it was breathtaking. I mean, it was like this movie is so great. Talk about a film that holds up. Film's like I think the film's almost 50 years old or something. Like Poltergeist is 40.
70, when did that come out? 78, 76?
75. I think it was
Yeah.
75, wasn't it? Like 74, 7. I think 75. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's 75.
But anyways, back to our amazing
Back to
guest.
Back at the ranch, yeah.
Back to our amazing guest down here. Leo, where can they find out more about this amazing guest?
Show notes up above, down below.
He's preoccupied. He's like, wow.
No, I saw comics. Van Zant's,
you're preoccupied.
No,
But
yeah,
yes,
I'm
yes,
working
you can
on it.
find out about our amazing guest in the comments. I mean, yeah, in the comments.
Right.
Yeah, in the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us today. So yeah, you're going to be at a HorrorCon coming up in December.
Yes, and it's
So-
a Christmas. It's a Christmas HorrorCon,
Right.
and and usually you don't put those kind of things together. You don't put like Christmas and Santa and like in horror convention. You don't do. So it's kind of a cool thing, you know.
It's gonna be a lot of creepy freaking Santas walking around.
I
Yeah.
can't wait to see who shows up, and I think this could be a trend. I love it.
Right, right.
Like how we were talking about, I think Tim Burton would approve. He did Nightmare Before Christmas, so it's like peanut butter and jelly that just kind of go together. Horror
Yeah.
and Christmas now will be forever linked.
Wouldn't it be more like peanut butter and fluff?
Yeah, I've never done
Because
that.
it's Christmas and it's winter, is
Yeah.
fluff.
I think that's a good flavor, as they say in the food shows. That's a good flavor profile.
Yeah.
Fluff and peanut butter. Mm-mm-mm.
So that is the TerraFest, a Christmas horror convention, and I believe it's Conroe, Texas.
Conroe, Texas. I've
Conroe,
never
Texas?
been there. I've been to Houston. I think it's a suburb of Houston. So I'll be there all weekend, and I'm ready to answer everyone's poltergeist questions.
So,
Nice.
so
Well,
sometime-
Leo, I was going to ask me if he found that trailer.
I did.
all right. Well, we haven't
All right,
gotten into
so-
that yet.
No, I know that. I just want to make sure he had it.
Yeah. I was going to just send him a message, but
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. That
um,
was something else Ben sent me last minute.
Yeah.
Well, no, that was backstage, and you were doing the Leo.
Yeah.
I'll be right back, guys. Anyway. Oh, all right. I forgot what I was going to say.
It's okay.
So-
It's that kind of night. I
So
don't
as
think-
far as I do have a question. And I'm going to go back to
Yes.
the poltergeist.
I figured.
Yes.
Besides the clown, I mean, what was the scariest moment you had filming that?
Well, this is the thing. I wasn't scared at all making that film. There was actually nothing scary actually on set. And, everything was like laid in afterwards, and I shot the film completely out of order. And what makes it so interesting, and it's funny you asked that because we asked Toby, on the set, we're supposed to be screaming at these ghosts and all these things happening. And I asked Toby, I said, what exactly are we scared of? He says, we don't know yet, but just think of the scariest thing that you can possibly think of. And that's what you're screaming at. So we all got in our heads. I think I grew up in a haunted house, and I was terrified of so many little odds and ends that I kind of tapped into those fears as a kid. So that's, for me, I was bringing out not what I was afraid of on set, but what I was afraid of in actual life. And I was kind of just channeling that, so to speak, So like when we're looking at, like, for instance,
Okay.
like when we're looking at the ghosts on the monitors, for instance, and they said to us, we were looking at plywood. We were just looking at boxes, and then Toby would just yell things out like, the ghosts are walking down the stairs. You're all looking. So we're all emoting, looking basically at nothing. And when the ghosts are flying around, he had like a stick, and he said, just follow this as your eye line, and you're terrified. And he'd talk us through the scene too, and said, okay, the ghosts are coming in. I'm like, so we were really acting against like a nothing really, It was all
That's
in our
pretty
minds.
cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. I think if you're in any special effect movie like that, especially today with all the CGI, you have to just emote from from the inside and get it out there.
Just you'd have to think of those scary things like wait
Yeah.
till your father gets home.
Right.
Yeah. if your dad is like that, yeah, that's a good thing to use.
Well, you mentioned growing up, and you thought the house was haunted. Have you had any paranormal experiences?
It's so funny you asked that. I really didn't believe in that much. I believe that there's a lot of questions unanswered in our universe, and which maybe we'll explain. But I went to this place with David, David from Terrifier, and we were at a horror convention in Kentucky. And we went to this place called the Waverly Sanitarium. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, Waverly Hills. Yeah.
Well, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was kind of a joke. I was like, this is nothing, So, we get there and they don't tell us anything in advance. And they said, just take us on this tour. I saw things that I cannot explain. They're the strangest things. So I saw these like caped things darting under doorways. And I'm like, and I asked the tour guide, I said, so what was that? And he's like, those are the shadow people. And I'm like, what? And he says, yeah, the shadow people. Like, it's a common, this is given, it always happens. People see it. And, it's unexplained phenomenon.
It's like no big deal.
Yeah, it's no big deal. It's like, yeah, shadow people, paranormal activities here. It's okay. It's all easy, And then meanwhile, I felt like a pressure on my head. David had some whispering in his ear. And I was like, it was a spooky place. We saw like orbs flying around. All of us saw orbs. And I thought maybe it was my eyes. I tried to debunk it, as I say. There was no traffic, no street lights. There was nothing. This place is in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky. But yet we saw orbs flying around, and all of us did. And I thought it was just me. I didn't even want to say anything because you're like, they'll think I'm insane. But it's like, I see orbs and I see these shadow things going under doorways. Yeah. But everyone saw them. So I heard NASA, speaking of NASA, I'm into like Artemis and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, supposedly they came out to the sanitarium to check it out. And I'm not sure what they found, but that's what the tour guide supposedly told us. Not supposedly. I mean, he did tell us that, and maybe they found out something, but I have no idea.
Well, I'm into a lot of the paranormal stuff, and there's a place called Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I've seen those kind of things on the History Channel.
Yeah.
I think, it's like
they got a show on History Channel, but they actually have a science crew there doing experiments on the place and everything. And there's a guy that actually worked for. He's done work for like NASA, the government. But yeah, he's like a rocket scientist, and they got him on the ranch, like doing experiments and trying to find out stuff too.
What did he find? Did he discover any anything?
Well,
you got to watch the show.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is they've determined that there's some sort of like power source or something above the ranch that they've been trying to measure, but no matter what they try to do to measure it, a lot of the tests go wrong. They'll, right before they run a test, like everything breaks. There's a lot of power outages.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Damn aliens. They just don't want us to learn anything about them.
Well, there was a guy that does work for NASA there. They brought him in as a specialist with a weather balloon with all this machinery on it for tracking, and they put it up. The weather balloon disappeared.
Wow. That's scary,
Yeah, the guy said he's been doing this for decades and he's never had a balloon disappear.
Just makes you wonder, how does that happen?
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Aliens. Just let the air out of the balloon, it'll disappear.
The aliens just don't want us to learn about them. That's the whole conspiracy. It's true.
Well, there's reports of shadow people on the ranch as well. So I don't know if there's maybe it's interdimensional people, or I don't know.
And this is like it's like Poltergeist. It's like the vortex for entry for all these multiple worlds colliding at the Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So folks. We've covered Poltergeist, Jaws, Skinwalker Ranch, and aliens.
And everything.
All in one fucking show.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the night has just begun.
Right?
Who knows what we may discover this evening?
So
Everything's open.
when you got out of Hollywood, like Jeff mentioned earlier, you went into behind the camera, directing and writing. And I believe I read somewhere that at the age of 15, you wrote and directed and produced a movie called The Crystal.
Yes,
Which won some awards.
On the set of Poltergeist, I really fell in love with the whole filmmaking process, and I made these little Super 8 movies, and I showed Mr. Spielberg my films, I thought he liked them, and then one day he says, "Oliver, I want to give you something," and he gives me the silver case, and lo and behold, there's a Beaulieu 5008S. That's the name. It's a fancy Super 8 camera. And he says, "This is yours, and I want you to go make films." And so I start shooting little Super 8 claymation movies, and I make this epic film called Day Pac-Man Ate the Earth. And I know it's brilliant. This is a 10-year-old. I think we should do a remake today. With Ilan doing the effects. Basically, the storyline is Pac-Man, saves, is going to attack the Earth, but Miss Pac-Man dilutes his power with love and saves Earth right before Pac-Man, basically destroys the planet. And this is my 9-year-old, conception. So I made that, and that was it was all claymation, and I showed it to Spielberg, and he liked it, and I continued making little movies, and eventually I was like, I told him, I said, I'd like to potentially make films as a career. And he said, well, you should go to film school. And he told me to go to USC. So I said, how do I get in there? I mean, my grades are just okay, and I know it's really tough. And he said, it's okay, I'll write you a recommendation letter. So I said, okay, now I'm in. I'm going to USC Film School. Steven Spielberg's going to write me a letter, and he does, and they reject me. And I'm like, how did this happen? Steven has his name on the building outside. He's on the scoring stage. They have to let me in. So they basically told me, I was so ballsy, I guess. I call up the film school, and I said, you have to let me in. You've got to let me in. And they're like, no, we don't. We won't. And then they say, we won't be told what to do by Mr. Spielberg or anyone else. So I said, fine. So actually, I marched down to the film school, and I managed to get a meeting with the dean of the film school. And I show him my film. I show him The Crystal, among other little movies. And I said, you got to let me in, and he says, okay. So he overrides the admission committee, which is like, I guess, unheard of. And they said, okay. It was like Animal House, where they decided to put me on special status. And I said, we're going to put special status. And I'm like, okay, what is special status? He says, you have to maintain a 3.0 average for the consecutive 4 years at the school. Otherwise, you're out. And you're going to have to meet with them like your person, like every semester at the beginning to see what your GPA is. And I almost got the feeling some of the people didn't want me to pass. I don't know. It was like a scene of a film. I'd sit down for that meeting. They pull up my grades, and they'd go, okay, I'll see you next semester. And that was it. So, and meanwhile, I had the best professors there, the best friends I made films with, and they were fantastic. So it was totally worth it. But getting in there was a small nightmare.
You had somebody on the admissions board that was having like a power trip, and
yeah, I don't know what was going on there. It was the strangest thing too. And they just said, we're not going to be told what to do by anyone, there. And
well, I can't argue that.
I could see the conversation.
Don't tell me what I can and can't do.
No, I could just see the conversation. No, Steven wouldn't put me in the movie. Why should I let him in the school? No, it's not happening.
So many students. This is in at USC Film. It's the best place. You learn everything. It's like boot camp. But there's a lot of love-hate relationships I learned when I was there, which was so interesting. I don't know if this is true. Maybe you guys can find this out, whether this is like hearsay, urban legend, or whatnot. But I heard John Carpenter, got in trouble, I guess, for not using equipment that he wasn't allowed to use, making this movie Dark Star. So I guess there was bad blood with him in the film school. So they eventually, when he became very successful, they wanted money from him, as USC always asked for that. So I guess he wrote a 2-letter. He wrote on a page. He sent it back to USC, and it had 2 words at the center of the page. And I'll let you guess what those 2 words were.
Mm-hmm. Have a nice day.
Yeah, F you.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that's actually true, but I heard that at USC. And even though I'm disparaging the film school name right now, I think it's the best place. I recommend going there. I think it's the best program. I think you will meet great people. You have the best professors, and it's you learn everything you need to do to make a movie there. So it's a fantastic place to go to film school.
Wow. What are you working on, Leo?
Looking up that John Carpenter.
I don't know if that's true. I'd be really curious. But
I figured Jeff wants to get into the trailer that you have, but I'm going to let him bring that. I'm going to let him bring that in if he remembers.
You have a film that's out. You worked on it. COVID, when COVID was here.
Yes, I did this film. We made this film in Florida, where I am actually right now. It was in the height of the summer, and it's about this fan who becomes obsessed with this actor who was in this 1980s cult classic movie called Chain-Faced Clown. And she becomes the super fan, and she seduces him. And when he doesn't want to spend his whole entire life with her, she goes into plan B and basically traps him and lives out her fantasies and has reenact scenes and even tries to write a sequel to the movie that he was in. And all these crazy things happen. And it's called Celebrity Crush. And now it's out, if I can promote it, on Amazon Prime, on Apple, and all those places. I think it's even on Tubi right now, too. So you can watch Celebrity Crush on Tubi.
So,
here's
nice.
Leo has a gift.
I do.
Maybe.
I'm not going.
Honey, you're going to have all these fans lining up to meet you.
I know.
You're going to sign a few DVDs and then come back to me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pete O'Shea Show. I'm excited right now because Jonathan's going to be signing Chain-Faced Clown, the Blu-ray re-release. Go see him today.
Fans come to the show to sleep with their favorite horror star, which is you.
Hey, I'm Jonathan Blakely.
My name's Emily.
Do you want to hang out later? There's a tattoo of my face on your leg.
Are you freaked out?
I really have to get going.
You and I were just so good together. It was like I finally met my soulmate.
We should just keep in touch online.
You're staying right here. This is your new home. I'm Chain-Face's biggest fan. Chain.
Hey, kid!
Are you awake?
Where am I right now? Emily, what's going on?
You and I could write a prequel to show how that killer came to life.
Get me out of here now!
You love having your fans fawn over you.
Can I confess something to you?
I just want to go home.
I won't let you.
I now have a part of you with me. Always.
Scream!
He told me about you.
A maniac like you doesn't even know what love is!
Goodbye, Jonathan.
Let us go, please.
Lights out!
That looks pretty
cool. It is. We shot that in the height of the summer, so all that sweat and everything is real. So yeah, it was really fun to do. It was hard because I was directing and acting on many of the same scenes. So that it really makes you appreciate someone like Clint Eastwood, who just makes it seem so easy, and it's not. So,
right. Clint brings in Clint.
Yeah.
No, that looked trippy as hell. I think I'm gonna have to watch it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it turned out well. And the actress Alyssa, she was great playing the psycho, and she isn't like that at all. And it's weird because we've shown it at some like film festivals, and people are like, "I want to meet." Like they like her insane side, and Alyssa's this really sweet gal, and she's not like that character at all. But they're like falling in love with the crazy gal that she portrays in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Most of them do. The crazier, the better. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she brought it out of her. She was fantastic.
So what was the drive behind making that? Like for you?
I hadn't acted in years, and my friends were like, you should act in a movie again. And I'm like, I haven't acted since I was like a kid. And I was thinking of making Celebrity Crush anyways. And I was thinking, I should just try out my hand, play this part. All my friends were like really supportive in film school. They're like, just go for it. Whatever happens, happens. So I said, okay, I'm gonna act in this film. And it was pretty intense because it was a fast and furious shoot. And you just had to, for me at least, when you're directing, you're using such a different side of your brain. You have to turn off one side and turn on the other. and then you have to call cut, and then you have to be thinking, objectively about. You have to look at your shot list, but then you're going back to another piece of coverage, and you have to be emoting again. And for me, at least, it was really hard to go in and out of character. And at the same time, you're screaming, and then you have to call cut, and then you're trying to tell the crew, this is what I want you to do. So I found that, especially for this kind of genre, that was really challenging.
I could see that. Need an assistant director.
And that's what I've heard. I mean, if you have a great assistant director, that's kind of the secret I've heard with Clint Eastwood too.
Yeah. All righty.
Yeah, got to give up those reins.
Yeah, everyone should watch the movie now, and it's free on Tubi as well too.
Right.
That's awesome. I'll have to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Which you can find out about in the show notes up above or down below. Our guest. Hey, just if you go look at our guest show notes, it's gonna have. There's a paper trail there. Trust me. Just you'll find it.
It's all there.
Well, so you were in another horror movie too, right? The Rideshare Killer.
Yeah, the Rideshare Killer. Ashley Myers.
Yeah,
my friend Ashley, who's a really great filmmaker. He wrote a script that I actually directed. He's like, Oliver, I'm doing this little movie. That's like the psycho rideshare killer guy, and I'm like, do you want to be in it? And I'm like, sure. So it turns out I get to act with, and this is only recently with Eric Roberts, and he was great. And I was so great to act with an actor of his caliber as a grown-up. I acted with a lot of great actors when I was a kid, but I was an adult now, and he was fantastic on set. And someone at his level is just so professional, and he makes jokes and just makes it a very lighthearted environment that you just you're not taking yourself so seriously. And he was fantastic in it too.
Right. Yeah, we had the pleasure of having him on the show. Seven or eight months ago.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, that's
he is
great.
A great guy. So yeah,
some great. God, he's been in some great movies too.
Here we go. We're going to talk about the Eric Roberts movies now.
Talk about Star 80. No, we don't have to do that.
Well, so talking about celebrity crush, has there been any time at a convention where you've had like a fan that you kind of feel is a little off center or any issues?
Aggressive,
creeped you out?
It's funny. I was in the South at this horror convention there, and someone comes up to me, this lady, and she has these containers, and I'm wondering, what are these containers? It turns out to be honey. And she says, I got you this honey, Oliver. I have this honey for you. And I'm like, that's great. And I take it, and I'm appreciative of the honey, and it was a lot of work to get this from the bees, and so then I don't think much about it. And then she realized, and I didn't realize, but that was a rite of passage. That was a connection of marriage, pretty much, that I was going to have to be with her pretty much forever because I accepted this honey. So, and she says, Oliver, I gave you this honey. And I'm like, I know, I really appreciate it. And she was very upset that I didn't want to follow through with the relationship now that we had with the connection of the honey. So that was rather bizarre. I didn't realize like honey was part of a mating ritual or something. Maybe it is.
Was her name B?
What?
Was her name B?
Yeah, of course. That was her name. Yeah.
Thank you.
But it was pretty crazy. And that kind of inspired Celebrity Crush. I just took Celebrity Crush is more of a black comedy horror. I mean, it's so crazy and so over the top, But that moment, I was thinking, what if you had that moment as an actor,
I see a sequel.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. You saved the honey part for the sequel.
Well, yeah, that'll be the next installment too. We're gonna do a Kickstarter, and we'll raise money, and we need funding for our independent horror movie. But yeah, people actually, it's funny because it's Celebrity Crush is kind of a movie within a movie, because we show parts of Chain Face Clown, the film that this kid was in years earlier. So we thought it'd be cool to actually shoot Chain Face Clown as a feature.
That would be cool.
So I don't know. If there's anyone's out there that wants to do the Kickstarter for Chain Face Clown, I'm behind it 100%.
Right?
I'm ready.
Chain Face Clown.
Chain Face Clown.
I like it. I like the title of it.
I do too. We know some people that might know some
What,
people.
clowns?
Yeah.
No, that might we know people that might know some people that know a few people.
I know people
that actually get behind things like that.
Let's make it happen.
Independent films content.
And you can do so many. What's so great about independent film? You don't have to get any approval. You just like go with it. And for better or worse, sometimes you get like genius, and other times you're like, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe that doesn't quite work. There's something to be said for the studio system, and I've written scripts at that level. And the development process, you hate it when you're working at the studio level, but at the same time, movies from Hollywood are the way they are, and because of that polish and that process, But so I see both sides.
Right, absolutely. So I mean, we're talking about Celebrity Crush and a potential sequel and stuff. And did anybody see this comment that came in?
I did. I put it up there.
I missed it.
Hey Jeff, my sexy husband.
You have
I don't know who that is.
I don't know, dude. But
yeah. Yeah.
No idea
Maybe that was supposed to be for another podcast.
Yeah. And Roxanne says she'll play B.
Well, thank you for that. We'll definitely if the movie happens.
Oh my.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, and that's our show. That's how it goes.
Yeah, that's the magic of the show.
So what do you got coming up? You said you got that horror thing coming up, Christmas horror.
I have that, and right now I'm just writing scripts and hoping to get a couple things going. And there's nothing. I don't have any big announcements, unfortunately, but I'm working on different odds and ends in Hollywood. And it's funny, like people don't realize it takes years sometimes to get things off the ground.
We know.
Oh, you guys know, but
we know.
Our audience at large, and you see and I have appreciation for all movies because it is even the worst films, are so hard to get to make and get funding for.
Yeah.
And so that alone, when you see something in Amazon Prime, you're like flip through it, and you're like, oh, this thing sucks. It might suck, and that's very true. But I just appreciate the magic and the hard work and the commitment. So
yeah, we haven't put ours on Amazon Prime. We're still on YouTube with it.
YouTube's good. YouTube's great. I think I made this one film, and if you're out there, this is a message to my distributor, who I haven't heard from like in years, and it's called 29,000 Wishes, One Regret, and it's been on Roku. And that's one of the things about independent filmmaking is that you might not hear from your distributor, and I never heard from these guys, but they're still getting the film out there. And if you're listening to this podcast for 28,000 One Regret, please contact me. I'd love to talk to you about the movie. It was a little drama I did, and that was a film I made. Literally, our budget must have been like $2,500. I'm not even exaggerating.
Wow.
My girlfriend did sound, and I operated camera, and we had a couple friends edit, and I edited a big chunk of the movie. And I just wanted to see, I was talking about film school, if I could basically wear all the hats and finish a movie at that budget range and, shoot it and edit it and all those things. And we did it. And you can watch it. I think it's on Daily Motion and I think it's on Roku too, as well. So check out 29,000 Wishes, One Regret.
I'll have to write that one down.
Yeah.
I already did.
Drama. So
did you?
Yeah.
You already wrote that down?
Yeah.
Well, aren't you fucking special?
Look at you, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, see?
It's out there.
29 wishes in one regret. No, it's
one
regret.
regret. Yeah, one regret.
One regret.
That'll be the sequel.
That's the sequel, right?
The regret part.
So for everybody tuning in late, because we know how it is, Oliver, aka Robbie, will be at TerraFest in Conroe, Texas, December 17th and 18th. No excuses. None. Get off
Everyone
the couch.
has to go. You guys have to come down and
off the
see
couch.
me, and
Yeah.
we'll talk Poltergeist. Like I said, I will answer all your Poltergeist questions, and I know everyone has like millions of them.
I mean, you also, I mean, not just Poltergeist, but you were in a rather large comedy in Airplane 2,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, Airplane 2. I love doing that. My dream. I started Airplane as a kid. My dream was to be in Airplane, and lo and behold, they were holding auditions, and I met with the director, Ken Finkelman. Great, really sweet guy, and he did such a great version of the script, and I felt so bad for him. And honestly, if we're just being honest here, talking, he wrote a really original draft of the Airplane movie, and the studio at the time made him rewrite the whole film so it was identical in many ways to the first one. And not to say the first one wasn't genius in its own right, but he came up with such original comedy that really never made it to the screen. And I think that it really showed you, what can happen. You make a movie at the studio level. So, but Airplane 2 was so much fun to do, and I had a great time doing it. And all the people, and Robert Hayes and Julie Haggerty they were so kind to me, and and it was a great change of pace because I had never done comedy before, and I got to be just completely over the top, in every one of the scenes. I got a pie in the face, and it was just, I wasn't screaming. I didn't have like gook on my body, and it was nice to wear a little suit when I went there. It was so much fun to do Airplane 2. I loved it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like
another classic.
Yeah, you got to hold a puppy dog for a while,
I know. It's funny. Everything I acted in as a kid, I always had a pet, and I learned a lot about dogs too. And thank God I loved animals. And on the set, the trainer, they never hit the animals. They never punished them. They were treated with love, kindness, and goodies. And I always had in my pocket a couple little meat treats for the dogs. And they said, when he does this, give him the treat. And he's your dog. And so he took command. All the dogs always took commands from me. Like Rip was the name of the dog from Poltergeist, and his screen name was E-Buzz. But the little dog, Scraps, he was such a sweet little doggy, So I love working with pets in all the movies.
That's awesome.
Nice.
But you have played both ends of the spectrum, from one of the scariest horrors to one of the funniest comedies. Which side do you prefer best, or is it just equally?
I just enjoy, it's funny. It's interesting to ask that question because I kind of got into acting because I was beat up so much as a little boy. And I was a little guy. I mean, I was a little guy, in the schoolyard, and I had to make myself bigger. I had to act. So I kind of credit those bullying experiences to my acting background, because you have 8 guys that are towering over you. You have to make yourself seem bigger or do something to kind of make sure you don't get pummeled and end up in a trash can. So I always pretended to be someone else, and I kind of channeled that. And that's what allowed me to do, become a different person. And getting back to your question with comedy or drama, it really doesn't matter to me. I love just being someone else and moving into that become that person. You live and you breathe that human. It's a new person you become. Because it's an old cliche, from acting classes, acting is not acting, it's being. And, it's a cliche, but it's actually so, so true. So if you're doing comedy, you're in that moment and you're playing. And this is what I always tell actors when I'm working with them as a director. No matter what you're doing, you want to play it real. You want to be in the moment. So you're not pushing for the joke. The joke, if the joke is there, it will be found. And the same thing with drama or being terrified. If you're scared, the camera is like a lie detector. It's gonna test your honesty, and the audience can see it, especially when it's on a huge screen. So I just try to be that person and live in that moment, no matter what I'm doing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Simple advice.
Yeah, it was. It was very well put.
So, is there anybody that you'd like to work with that you haven't had the chance?
Well, it's funny. I'd like to direct a movie for Steven Spielberg now. I've acted as a kid. Steven, if you're out there, I'd love to do a movie under his auspices, because he's the genius, And it was so funny because I was working on a screenplay at 20th Century Fox, and these are guys who made some pretty big films, and they even said to me, they're like children. They said, "Hey, when the script's done, would you show it to Steven to get his notes? Because he's you can be a professional filmmaker, but you'll never be at his level because he's such the master of cinema of filmmaking." So they wanted to get notes if a movie got made, and he's the guy who could give you great notes, and because he can anticipate what audiences think and feel, and he truly is the master filmmaker. So if I got to work with anyone, before I leave this earth, I'd like to make a movie for him.
That would be cool.
Steve?
Yeah, Mr. Spielberg. You know, come
Get
on,
on
it's Robbie. You have to do it.
He has to.
You have to do it, Steve.
But
It's Robbie.
I just feel. I mean, honestly, I just feel so great that I was such a.
He's out there saying, "Nah, I saved his ass once already."
That's so much. Yeah, he gets this one get out of jail free card. That's it. Sorry.
But come on, I landed on free parking.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't I get something for that?
And honestly, I mean, it's so. I mean, I just feel blessed that I got opportunity just to work with him. I mean,
right.
You know, he was like, I think in the history of cinema in the 20th century, he's probably, you know, in the top 5 filmmakers, you know, especially in the genre and the impact.
Yeah,
he's had.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
So
sweet.
I knew somebody. I could see it in Leo's face.
Yeah,
I just
know.
Go ahead.
So you've gone from trading stocks to making films, acting. What do you do in your downtime, or what do you dork out about? Like what's one thing that, you know, like you know, we had like Bruce Valanche on, and like he liked you know, studying the history of like sunken ships and stuff like that. Is there something unique that you really dork out about?
I just love, you know, you're gonna laugh. I know this sounds totally insane. Maybe it's the dystopian side of me, but I like studying like nuclear holocaust scenarios. I know it sounds awful, and just dystopian weird, you know, things like that. And you know, honestly, I guess it's something. When I was a kid, I was so afraid. I grew up in the '80s, and I was so afraid of nuclear holocaust. So I love studying history and Cold War history and all the different things. And it's not like I want to see a nuclear war occur. I mean, God, no. I actually don't ever want to see that ever happen. But it's really interesting. I love to study those aspects of history and, you know, and humanity and all the reasons why those events happen, everything from the Cuban Missile Crisis to, you know, to present day situations. And I've really been into, like, I love reading about geopolitics. And when I was at USC, I almost majored in poli-sci, believe it or not. I know that's so different than cinema. And I remember a professor there was like, you should switch your major from film to political science. So I love studying politics, and I won't get into politics, but I like reading about history, and I'm a really big, you know, history buff, even going back to the, you know, the Civil War. So I guess in my downtime, I'd love to read about those events and think about them and consider them. And, you know, I think it's an intellectual kind of game in my head. And my friends and I talk about it too from USC, and we could discuss these things. And it'd be great to make a historical movie, you know.
I was just gonna say, I see a documentary coming in the near future.
I love to do it. I mean, I love docs, and I think I've never made a doc before. And I think they're really hard to make. I really, I think it's such a challenge, and maybe I could do it, but I'd like to do. I like narrative filmmaking only because you can control the storytelling. You know the story you're going to tell. With all my friends who make docs, you don't know the story you're going to get till you're on set, and it's not even a set, so it's happening. And then the stories kind of comes to you and it's created. With narrative filmmaking, you know exactly, you know, shot by shot, how you're going to tell your story.
True.
So that's kind of my feeling. Not to say if there wasn't a subject matter that was just so brilliant that you're like, you know, we gotta tell this as a doc. But I think those are so challenging. I don't know if I'm even capable of doing that.
Of course you are.
Yeah, of course.
Of course you are. You have to have faith in yourself.
Yeah,
and I mean,
I think
look at
you're right. I mean, with the right subject matter, anything's possible.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I mean, look at the things that you've created and things you've been part of, you know, 40 years plus.
That is really true.
You know,
I was just a kid. I mean, Poltergeist is just so amazing that it was like lightning in a bottle of, you know, that, and it really, how many things truly worked on that movie, you know. And having made films now, I'm amazed at what happened on that set, you know.
Yeah.
And my understanding is they came ahead of schedule and under budget. And how many times do you hear about that on a studio film? You know, but I think I credit the producers. You had Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy. See it all in Toby Hooper and Steven Spielberg. So you have this great team, you know. And you know, they say, you know, 90% of a director's job is casting, and I think Toby and Steven truly chose the right actors for every part in that, and it really does show on the screen. They didn't rush it, and I think that was really That's really key. Sometimes you see movies, you're like, they just rushed into doing it, and they chose great actors, but are they really right for that role? And the chemistry isn't there.
Well, of course they came under budget. They moved the headstones without moving the bodies.
They had help from the help from the spirit world, so of course they're gonna, Yeah, it makes perfect sense, right?
I was waiting for something like I was waiting. I knew it was coming sooner or later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now that we back all the way back to Poltergeist.
Yes.
Was there anything creepy on the set that happened? Behind the scenes, like
there was nothing. It's the thing. There was nothing that doesn't happen in any other set. There wasn't anything creepy at all. I mean, I never had any issues. I'm trying to think, is there anything like totally crazy? And there really wasn't on that set. So I just had for me, Poltergeist, the set was like going to camp. And I remember like, it was so great the way they introduced me to everything too. Like Frank Marshall, it would tell me like, we're going to go back to the set. We built this house, and the way they introduced the tree to me, they never said, oh my God, this is a scary thing and you're going to be terrified. And, they never made it feel like it was going to be a challenge. They made it feel like it was going to camp. That's the best way I could describe it. Every day was like a new adventure. And the way they presented it to me, they made it really fun. Like, for instance, the scene when we're being sucked into the closet, and they said, what we're going to do, Oliver, is we're going to give you a harness. And I'm like, okay. And you put this on and put wires and you attach them to this wall and to the wall, and the room's going to actually change or go on an angle. So the camera, it's like a forced perspective. Camera's going to be here, and you're going to be falling towards the camera. And then we're going to animate. And I said, what about the wires? Because I was that kind of kid. I wanted to know. It says, we're going to do something called rotoscoping. So we're going to blow up every frame, and we're going to animate the wires out. So you won't even see those. Will be invisible. So that's how they did the scene when I'm being sucked in the closet. And this is, before CGI or anything else. It was all pretty much physical effects.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got to fly.
Yeah, it was you've never been on a harness. It's a blast to do that. I loved it as a kid too. You're just flying around. And they swing you, and I had a blast doing that.
Is there anything left from set that you kind of like snuck off or hid or took?
No, but I have one thing. At the wrap party, Mr. Spielberg gave me one of the slates, and I think there were like 4 or 5 of them. And he said, "Here's a slate for the movie." And he really thanked me for doing my job, and I thanked him because it was the best experience ever. So I have the slate from Poltergeist, and when I'm off this earth, I want it to go. I'll put it on record. I don't want it to end up in someone's personal collection. I want the Poltergeist slate to go to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So when 70 years from now, and they're doing the exhibit on Tobe Hooper or Steven Spielberg or anybody, that they bring it out and they put it out there, and everyone can go, okay, that was the slate from Poltergeist.
That would be really cool.
Yeah. And I think it's a good place for it to go, to be preserved for eternity.
Right.
Makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have about 4 or 5 minutes left for the show, because I know Leo has another one. We're running a little late. Any questions and comments out there in Cyberland? Now's the time to get them up here. I mean, comments have been coming in all night, but if you got a question for this amazing guest, I'd say you get it up there. Otherwise, Jeff and Leo are going to suck up the last 4 minutes.
And I promise to answer it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, because these two are definitely going to suck up the next 3 minutes and 30 seconds. You see how I keep bringing it down, right? Because I keep talking.
The clock is ticking. We got it. Ask your questions.
Well,
you got it.
Jeff, you have chicken waiting for you.
Chicken?
Is it chicken tonight?
Ribs. What's for dinner?
Good. That sounds good.
No, I think it's a steak.
I had supermarket sushi. It wasn't the best, but I'm not sick. I don't have food poisoning, so I feel ahead.
True that.
Any sushi meal you don't get sick from the supermarket, you're in good shape.
That's
right.
Just a quick question about Poltergeist. Was there any sort of like kind kind of paranormal experts like the on set to like guide or give suggestions?
No, I think on Poltergeist 2, Will Sampson, he blessed. This is my understanding. I never saw him do it, but I know on Poltergeist 2, he blessed the set. I think because I think he was a shaman too, the actor. I'm not sure. You could Google that. Everything's out there. But yeah, he blessed the set. And that was a difficult shoot has nothing to do with Paranormal Activity. That film was that was a hard film for the filmmakers to make the sequel. So it was good. I think it was good that Will he blessed the set.
Wow, that's awesome.
So there's your.
I was hearing a dog.
Answer. You were hearing a dog.
Yeah.
That's
My dog, I think.
That's from the other universe. That's from the other multiverse. That's popping through ours. That's the dog.
It's a shadow dog, Jeff.
It's a shadow. It's one of the skinwalkers.
The shadow. One of the shadow.
The aliens heard this conversation and they wanted to make themselves known.
See, it's coming through the screen from you.
Yeah, it's coming from. I didn't want to tell you guys. I have a vortex of energy like Skinwalker Ranch above my house, and this alien activity. I just didn't want to mention it.
Great. We'll watch this back tomorrow and go, where did this hour go?
Yeah,
right.
We're there, but we're not.
If I end up back on the mothership, don't be mad. Just know it happened. This was my last interview on Earth before the aliens took me.
Yeah, but
no,
don't
if you go and I'll go.
They will return
come
him.
Get me.
They will. It's like
look.
It's like Close Encounters. I will come back one day. They can't guarantee when, but I will come back.
Oh, but we know when. You'll be back December 17th and 18th.
Yeah, you know what? That is so true. The aliens, they've
already booked it. They have to bring you back.
I got to do the hard mention. There's no way I could be on the mothership and miss that.
Right?
Exactly. I'll talk to them about that. I think I have it all worked out.
Excellent. So, like I said, December 17th and 18th in Conroe, Texas.
And I'll be there.
The Terra Festa Christmas Horror Convention. So, like I said earlier, there's no excuses. Get off your couches. Walk down, drive down, fly down, whatever you need to do.
Whatever you
head
have to
down.
do to get there. That's all that matters.
Right.
You have to go lock those doors, and you have to come see me.
Bring them something really, really weird, just not honey.
Yeah, just don't bring me honey, containers of honey.
Right.
Or maybe
No
anything
honey.
else. No Kool-Aid or honey or, yeah.
As
long as you do that, I think we're in good shape.
But if we have a tattoo of his face,
yeah, just try to avoid having a tattoo of my face on any body part. I appreciate the commitment, but maybe avoid that part too. But
that's great. So with that,
we'll wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. And me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but I run the Dorkening Podcast Network. We got a ton of awesome shows on the network. There's a lot of awesome people doing a lot of awesome stuff. And like Ben said, I'm going to be doing another live show in about 45 minutes. So 9 p.m. we'll come back here. And Oliver, where do you like people interacting with you on the social medias?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm kind of late to the show with Instagram, so I don't have a lot of followers. So you'll be one of the first. So you can interact with me in those places. And, I really have to get more into Twitter and everything else. So, yeah, reach me on Facebook and Instagram, and we can chat.
Yeah, and get on TikTok and Mastodon, and all of
that. I have to get into that, too. I'm kind of old school. I'm more on Facebook and Instagram, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I don't do any of that stuff. You can find us at stilltoking.com, though. Talking with the Dead on Facebook. Don't Google me. Google Leo. He's got some cool shit you could look at.
Benjamin.
So, like Jeff said, stilltoking.com. You can find out everything you want to know about us, from the comic book to the TV series to the animation to what we have going on next. We don't know what it is either. It just happens. But no, definitely want to thank Oliver coming out and hanging out with us tonight and just doing what we do, enjoying life and having fun. To all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can do what we do. Stay safe. We're out of here. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on.